Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and today I'm going to review another Moes product that I received from Moes free of charge for this review video. And this is a smart light switch, and this is a zigbee light switch. And as you can see, it is a 2-gang model. Well, by the way, the one that I have here is a 2-gang model, but there is a 1-gang and a 3-gang model available as well, and you can get it in two different colors, gray and this white one. What I would say in summary of this product is that it behaves just like what you would expect from a zigbee smart light switch. Of course, it has all the outputs to go out from, for the 2 gangs. So you can see there are 2 screws here for live 1 out and live 2 out, and there is also like a 3rd screw hole if you buy the one which has a 3-gang version. And of course it operates in Zigbee, so you can operate your lights from here, and then you can operate it through whatever smart network that you choose. I mean, this one uses a Tuya, and also what you could probably feel or hear, well, not feel but hear, that it uses a micro switch. So it's not a touch sensor, but it has a micro switch and a small amount of travel behind the the switch contacts or the switch plates. Negative thing I would say about this, that I have tested this with obviously the Tuya Smart system. That's the Zigbee system it is designed to, and it's working just fine. But I had other Zigbee devices that I was able to use equally as well with Sonoff and Zigbee to MQTT, because these are the other 3 systems, or the 2 systems that I have. And for both of them, what happened is that whenever I try to operate the switch from the respective apps, both of the channels turn on and off. So I wouldn't recommend using this in other than the Tuya system. And but I mean, if you have the 1-channel version, obviously you wouldn't have this issue because there is only 1 channel. So that's one downside, and I have no idea why it is behaving this way. I have recently reviewed another Moes product. That was also a Zigbee one, and it was working flawlessly in each 3 systems. The other interesting thing comes when I turn this unit around, because you can see all the connections here, and then you can see there is live in and then the various live out connections, and there is a neutral, and then in small brackets there is a mark which says optional. And actually this switch operates in a live plus neutral wiring configuration, but it also operates as a single live wire or no neutral wire required configuration, and it does it without any capacitors. So I have a separate section on this for this video, but it just works. So you don't need any additional capacitors. If you have a neutral connection, you just connect it in. If you don't have a neutral connection, you don't, and it just works in both ways. So you don't have to do anything. And this is a big thing, because this is the first time I'm seeing a single live wire version which doesn't require a capacitor. Let me go into a little bit detail on this switch. First of all, if we look at the box, so we already looked at the front, and on the back there are a couple of other things. So this is a 2-gang version and a wide and a Zigbee one. As I said, there is a gray version, and you can get 1, 2 and 3 gangs. And it's universal voltage, so it works in Europe and the US as well. It says the max current is 10 amps, and actually it's the relays inside are 20 amps. So that's like 10 amps per channel. I mean, of course, if you would connect 10 amps for all 3 channels, I don't think that this thing will be able to handle that much. So definitely don't max it, especially in all the channels, because especially in these small form factors, having 3 relays and all of them at 10 amps, yeah, I mean, the relays are probably rated at 10 amps. And by the way, maybe you can see this fine print, but there is a manufacturer address, and there is an address in the UK and Germany as well. So if you are purchasing this within the EU or in the UK, you will probably get posted from these addresses, so it's going to be fairly quick. And certainly my product has arrived quickly as well. And as you can see here, it is advertised to work with Tuya, and it, of course, you know, Tuya integrates with Alexa and Google Home, so you can control them as well. When it comes to the switch, it comes with this very minimalistic design. It has a rather, you know, big bezel. It has the Moes logo and the name embossed here, so it has slightly raised letters. And by the way, this is not like a shiny plastic. It has a very fine texture to it, so everything appears as matte. And then you have the switches, you have an indicator light behind it. You will see later in this video that you can configure these indicator lights to be off, or whether they showed whether the output is on, so it turns on when the light is on, or actually it turns off when the light is on, so it's on when the light is off, so it gives you like a indication light. And interestingly, there is a micro switch in both sides, so it doesn't really matter whether you push it here or whether you're pushing it on the top, it works, which is, I think it's nice, because yeah, it feels like a rocker switch. So there is like a hinge point in the middle, but again, you can switch it on both sides. And of course, you can you know, remove this front panel, and that's how you get access to the screws to mount it on the wall. And we have already seen the back side and then the connections. So it just, you know, usual wiring, live in, live out, 1, 2, and 3. And as I said, the optional neutral connection. Also in the box, you received a couple of screws, and there is a user manual. This is a little bit thicker than the usual user manual. It also comes in a couple of languages. So for example, you can see the wiring here, and even here it mentions that the neutral is optional, and there is no indication of capacitors, and well, you don't need a capacitor. And then the rest of the documentation talks about the you know, setting it up, and then how you pair it with the Tuya Smart app, and also some mounting stuff. I would say this documentation is probably a little bit more detailed than the usual documentation I see for these devices, and this is in a single language. So yeah, but there is nothing really special about these, especially setting them up and then wiring them any other you know, smart light switch. So let me show you how it works in a single live wire configuration. Well, I have really short wires, especially for this LED lamp, so it is a little bit difficult to see, but you have the mains coming in, and as you can see, the neutral goes into this terminal block. So the live goes into the switch, and then the live goes to one of the lamps, and it goes to the other lamp. And then of course the other lamp, they receive the neutral as well through this one. So definitely the neutral is not going through the switch. So this is a single live wire configuration, but it still works. And to be honest, I have no idea how it works because, well, in all my other cases that I have seen, you would need to connect a capacitor across the load, which is usually would be here or would be there, but this model doesn't require it. So I guess the only way this could work if the switch is letting some small amount of current to flow through, which is not going to turn on either of the lamps, but it would just allow the switch itself to operate and then receive enough power for the, you know, for the small amount of power it needs to just to function. And let me just unplug it, and maybe I can just show you that small flash. Yeah, you see the flash when it goes connected. So maybe that's something when it's you know, like turns on just a short amount of time in the beginning and it turns itself off. So, but anyway, it works. It doesn't require a neutral line, and of course in the rest of the video I would just connect the neutral because I wasn't connecting a load, but it works either way. It doesn't require any additional capacitor, so it definitely makes our life easier. So let me test this device in the Tuya app because, well, primarily it is sold for Tuya, although as we know, Zigbee works with, other Zigbee systems. So what you can see here is my Blitzwolf IS1. This is what I'm going to use for the Zigbee gateway, and I have the switch also connected here. So I don't have any loads connected, just the mains connected on the top. And I've already done the pairing. I think I mentioned before, but if you press the left button for I think like 7 or 10 seconds, then it goes to pairing mode. So if you need to switch between networks or need to re-register the device, this is what you can do. And I was able to add this 2-gang switch, which is here, and the user interface is, I think it's exactly the same how we would see with other, 2-gang switches. So you have these 2 switch faces, and you can switch them, of course, and then you get a hint up here that if you long press any of the switches, you can rename them. So instead of switch 1 and switch 2, you can give them a more meaningful name. And I'm not sure if it's going to come through in the app, sorry, in the recording, but maybe it will. But when I switch those gangs, you can see that the LED is lit. And actually we can change the behavior of these LEDs a little bit later. But let me just cover the user interface here in the Tuya app. So we have a button, a couple of buttons on the bottom. So the leftmost is all on, and then on the rightmost is all off. So if you want to, turn on all the gangs for whatever reason, you have a single button for that. And then you have a timer function, which is you can set timers or countdowns for either switch 1 or switch 2, so both of the gangs separately. So in countdown, you just like you turn this on, and then you will set a one-time timer to turn the device off. And in the schedule, you can just specify an hour and a minute, and then the days of the week, and then you can specify whether the switch should be on and off. And of course, you can have multiple of these schedules. So this is the the simple programmable switch that you can create here, and you can do it, as I said, for both of the outputs. So this is fairly standard stuff, nothing really unusual here. And then we can go into the settings, and here we find the power on or restart status, which is basically the power on status. So if this loses power and then the power comes back on, whether it should be turned off or it should be turned on, or this restart memory is basically just to remember, come back on to the last state. So this is nice that you can configure this. And there is an indicator status as well, and that's basically the the behavior of these buttons. And so you can, sorry, not the behavior of the button, the behavior of these lights, the small LEDs behind them. So you can have them to turn off. It means that regardless whether the output is turned on and off, it's always going to be off. You can have an on-off status, and so here what you can see that the left one is always lit. No, sorry, on-off status means that if I go back, so now the switch is off and the light is off, and then the switch is on and the light is on. So I guess it makes sense. But then if you select the other one, the switch position, then it's actually the other way around. So for me, this makes a little bit more sense, because this is how I remember the old light switches that glow when the light is off, so you can find them. And of course, when you turn them on, then the small light goes away. So you can really configure which one works best for you. I see merits in both of them. Maybe sometimes you want to see the actual status, or maybe you want the small light to be used as like an illumination light, so it's easier to find the switch. And that's basically what you get in the settings. And within the device settings, there is nothing really that we haven't, in Tuya it's all the generic things. But you can have this multi-control association. So if you have a bigger room where you have 2 of these switches, like let's say at 2, end of the room, then you can just group them together so they act or they sync their statuses automatically. And of course you can share the device, and yeah, you can create a group as well. So it's this multi-control association, for me it is pretty much same as the the group one. So I'm not really sure why they have created this separate one. And of course you can do a device update, or if you don't need it, you can remove this device from the Tuya Zigbee network. But that's pretty much it. And on the top you get this switch, and you can use this main button here to turn all of the gangs on and off. I don't think that's particularly useful, but if you have a single gang switch, then at least you can use this you can use the tile to turn it on and off without going into the detail screen. So that's nice. And if I want to have a quick look how it acts in the scene, I can create a simple automation. And actually no, oh, let's look at the actions first. So run device, 2 gang switch, switch 1 and 2. Yeah, so you can turn them on and off, or you can just reverse the existing state. So it's good that you have this reverse functionality. I mean, yeah, you don't really expect many different things from a switch, so you can switch them on and off. And I'm pretty sure that you can also create a device status. Yeah, so you can also create an automation. You can also create a scene whenever either the switch 1 or the switch 2 gets turned on or turned off. So this is what you get in the Tuya Smart application. And now I'm going to show you how this device works in the Sonoff ecosystem. And for this, I'm going to use my Sonoff NS Panel Pro. And I've already done the pairing. There's nothing really special about that. I use the screen in here just to start pairing for the switch. And as you can see, it has found the switch, and I have it on the screen. I haven't renamed it, so it's just called switch. But you can see that it has 2 channels, and there is like a button to turn all of them on and off. And if I press channel 1, what you would notice that channel 2 turns on as well. So this is what I mentioned before. So regardless which one I pick from the screen, both of them turns on. But if I just use the physical switches, those work fine, as you would expect. So I'm not really sure what's the deal in here, but this means that you can't really use it with Sonoff, because yeah, I mean, you can't really use this, the screen to turn individual channels on and off, and it just becomes a little bit useless. I mean, one of the main functions that you can pair it with other devices, and you can just control them over the Zigbee network as well. But in this case, it only works properly if it is operated manually. By the way, in case you are interested, it works exactly the same way if I try to use the app as well. So you can see the switch here, and if I turn one channel on, then both of the channels turn on. Yeah, otherwise you get all the usual things like schedules and the timers, and in the settings, yeah, you don't see any settings here with Sonoff. So that even if it would work, then you are missing that functionality that you can set in the Tuya app to change the LED behavior, which is not a big deal. And I know that the device does remember it. So if this would be the only option, I can set it up in Tuya, set this behavior, and then I start using it or repairing it with another system, and the LEDs would work as expected. But the fact that all the channels operate at the same time makes it pretty much useless in the Sonoff system. And finally, I wanted to show you how it behaves in the Zigbee to MQTT network. I've already paired a device, and actually this is it. So it shows up as a Tuya TS0012 switch. And by the way, I just updated Zigbee to MQTT to the latest version, so it shouldn't be a version issue. And so far it looks promising because it shows that it is supported. The other thing which I noticed that the device type is an N device, so it doesn't appear to be acting as a Zigbee router, which is, I mean, it might make sense if the device is using a non single live wire connection, but if it's fully wired, all, at least I would expect that this works as a router. But regardless, I can't really do anything with it. So even if I try to, query the state, or if I try to turn it on, nothing really happens, and we will get some error messages that you will see later on. And of course, I can operate this switch from here. It works perfectly, but we are not getting update in the Zigbee MQTT network. So the way this device works is not supported by Zigbee MQTT at all. And the funny thing is, this is not the first time I'm trying this. And when I tried it for the first time, I was able to pair it, but it was working the same way as it worked in Sonoff. So even if I from the Zigbee to MQTT network, if I was trying to turn on even the left switch or the right switch, both of them switched at the same time. So it's the same thing as in Sonoff. It's not really useful. So I wouldn't recommend this using in a Zigbee to MQTT network. And as a matter of fact, it looks like that it really only works in the Tuya ecosystems and probably nowhere else. So that will be all for today. If you are interested in this device, I'm going to leave purchasing links in the video description. You can buy this from the Moes own website as well, but they are available in AliExpress and probably some other places as well. So that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.